Let us start with the auspicious chant. Shri Harim Paramanandam, Shri Harim Paramanandam, Upadeshtaram Ishwaram, Upadeshtaram Ishwaram, Vyapakam Sarvalokanam, Vyapakam Sarvalokanam, Karanam Tam Namamyaham, Karanam Tam Namamyaham. I salute Sri Hari, who is of the nature of infinite bliss, who is the primal teacher and the Lord of all, who pervades all the worlds as the very existence of these worlds. So, questions is very important because this path is the path of inquiry. It's only when I have a question that the door really opens and the teacher has a chance to guide the seeker towards the truth that lies within the seeker. When you ask the questions, these questions are not just for the person who's asking. Generally, a good question is something that most people would relate to. And often the answer works not only for the person who's asking, but perhaps for many others who are sitting quietly and listening. So it's good to listen to the questions and answers and not to be eager for my question. So anybody who would like to ask a question, please come and ask the question. Tell us your name and ask the question. And tell us where you're from. You can just pull it down a little bit.
Namaste. My name is Hasmita. I'm from Dallas, Texas. My question was with regards to the reflective consciousness that you spoke about yesterday. You mentioned that there is like an intermediate step and the water in the pot was really a reflection and that we needed to look back and see the source of where that is. So in my practice, I'm sick and tired of watching my thoughts. I can't even tell if, if there is, it made a little difference saying that there is a witness and there's gaps and then there's thoughts. So my question to you is, how can I tell if I'm just imagining the whole thing? That is the role of the witness and the thoughts. Is it possible to continue to be in some sort of even an intermediate or the reflective consciousness state and still be able to see the thoughts go on, or is it just one or the other?
Right. The pure consciousness which you are, which the Vedanta says which we are, that's always there. It's not a state. And it's not a state that we have to reach. We are already that. It's more like recognizing that we are that. It's more like knowing that we are that. Notice something. When you're trying to watch the thoughts, that's an activity. You can try to watch it, or you may not try to watch it. Right now, many of us may not be watching our thoughts. So anything that begins and ends is an activity. And it's accomplished with the will, it's accomplished with the mind. So that's still an activity of the mind. And there those questions will arise. Am I really a witness? Am I imagining it? Am I watching my thoughts? Oh, I've stopped watching my thoughts. Now I need to start watching my thoughts. But what I want to point out is this. Whatever be your thoughts and whatever is going on in your thoughts, whether you are clearly watching the thoughts, whether it's fuzzy, or whether you are doubting whether I'm watching the thoughts or imagining, all of these are experiences. Are they not?
Yes.
They are all experiences to what? To whom? I'm not looking for an answer. You have to look inside. All experience doesn't have to be a deep meditative experience. It could be a fuzzy, confused experience. It could be sleepiness. It could be just blankness. The consciousness that you are lights up, illumines clear states of mind, meditative states of mind, questioning states of mind, confused states of mind, sleepy states of mind. No mind, no thought at all. That also is lit up by that consciousness which you are. Don't try to be it. Try to note that, yes, this is true. And the clarity or the confusion, the sharpness of the mind or the sleepiness of the mind, all those belong to the mind. True or not?
Yes.
If you just say that, that also is a great relief. What you are saying is right. If you try to be the witness, I remember a teacher there in India, Swami, teaching the Drigdrishya Viveka, the separation of the seer and the seen. After teaching it for quite a while, practicing being the witness, I'm the witness of my thoughts and so on, he said to the assembled monks, well, Swamis, well, monks, do you feel that you are the witness now? Don't you feel it, that you're the witness? And it was a very intense session, so the Swamis said, some of them said, yes, yes. And then the teacher said, you have dug a very deep hole for yourself. You're going to, in Hindi he said, bahut bade gadde mein giroge. What is the deep well that you dug for yourself? You are using an activity of the mind. It is true, the mind can witness itself. It's the word introspection. We can look into, the mind can look into itself. It's an activity. That is not the witness self. How do you know? Because it begins and ends. It's clearly an activity at the level of the mind, looking into the mind. Just as the mind can actually observe these things, can reflect upon what's going on, it can also observe its thoughts and reflect upon what's going on there. That's introspection, it's looking inwards. But that's not what is meant here. The witness consciousness doesn't have to be accomplished. It's an ever accomplished fact. Whether we know of it or not, whether we are making an effort or not, it's always there. And you are it. It just has to be recognized. Not even recognized on a continuous basis, only once. And then you are it. I think sort of the truth of this, at some level you recognize it, right? Or I'm forcing you to recognize it.
No, it's...
Just notice you have practiced introspection, watching your thoughts. That whole thing is an activity.
Yes.
And it is an experience. It's an experience. Like any experience, it's also an experience.
That's the shift from the last 2 days to recognize it as an experience.
Yeah, it's also an experience.
Yeah.
To what? That to what is never an object of experience. It's the real you. Don't ever try to objectify it. That's all I will say right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Please tell us your name and where you're from.
I'm Dan from Toronto. So feelings of guilt and feelings of I'm the one that did it, like a free will, I feel like that's on one side, and the other side is it was God's will and I don't have free will. Could you talk about that as possibly?
Yes.
I'm just struggling with that one, like the predetermined versus all my doing versus somewhere in the middle.
Right. That's a good question. The question of free will inevitably crops up whenever you're discussing something like this. So what's the Vedantic position on that? It's complex. And I will direct you to a talk which I gave, Do We Have Free Will? If you look it up on YouTube, it's their detailed talk. But the idea is this. The jiva, the individual sentient being, which feels that it has free will, us, right now, whatever we argue, whatever philosophy we take up, even thinking that God does everything, but we do feel that we have some amount of free will. It could be dismissed as an illusion, but we do feel it. And as long as we do feel it, we have to own up to it, that we have free will. Our entire civilization, our legal system, justice system is all predicated on the fact that the subject, the actor, the individual has some free will. You can't blame somebody, punish somebody, put somebody in jail if you say that they have no free will. In fact, things like the insanity defense and all are basically free will defenses, that the person cannot be blamed for what this person did. So practically the answer is, Vedanta says we have free will, but there's a big but lurking behind it. Upon investigation, it seems that we have no free will. And I can't go into this, but there's a beautiful article by Professor Arindam Chakravarti, who is at Stony Brook, professor of Indian philosophy, who says, look at the problem from three levels. The first level is as it appears to us. It appears to us we have free will. The second level is upon investigation. Upon what kind of investigation? Philosophical investigation, religious theories, and modern neuroscience. The so-called Libet experiments, yes. They seem to point to the fact that we actually do not have free will. Modern science, deterministic science, would sort of say that we actually cannot have free will. So upon investigation, it seems that we do not have free will. And multiple theories come up there. There are theories called deterministic theories which say that we do not have free will. So the feeling of free will is an illusion. There are libertarian theories which say that we do have free will, and there are arguments to defend that. And there are theories which are called compatibilist, which try to say both. In fact, an argument is, from the mathematics point of view, somebody argued that a mathematician can do mathematics only because he or she is constrained by the laws of mathematics. If there was no laws or no axioms to begin with, there would be no possibility of... So the laws or the constraints or the axioms are not limiting the freedom of the mathematician. It's even actually giving the mathematician freedom to do mathematics. So freedom and determinism can be combined. That's one way of looking at it. But the Vedanta comes in at the third stage, at the deepest stage. At the deepest stage, again, it says there is freedom, not free will. The pure consciousness, our real nature, is ever free. What does it mean for the question you asked? What about the consequences of my actions? The individual sentient being suffers the consequences of actions. This is called karma. Good action, dharma, leads to merit, punya, leads to happiness, sukha. Bad action, consciously done, being consciously naughty, that's adharma. That leads to papa or sin or demerit, which results in dukkha. So this is a kind of, this is called the doctrine of karma, sort of accepted by all Hindus, Buddhists, all Indian schools, Jains, Sikhs, and in a different form by the Abrahamic religions. So this is true at the level of the individual being, the jiva, our superficial identity. This superficial identity is always caught up in karma, good and bad. It's caught up in causality. But the true self, which we are talking about here, the real you, is untouched by it. Vivekananda says, in his poem, The Song of the Sannyas, he says, good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. But whosoever wears a form, wears the chain too. The chain is the chain of karma, cause and effect. But what is Vedanta? Vedanta starts after this. It says, but far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. Know thou art that. You are that reality. And say Om Tat Sat Om. That is the stanza. The interesting thing is, Gita, the Upanishads, they all say this realization breaks the chain of causation. You are set free from karma. Till that point, till enlightenment, where all past karma is burnt up and you're completely set free, you realize that you have always been free actually. But until that point, a practical suggestion is, if you are lucky enough to have devotion to God in some form, what we do is take all our actions and mentally, with great earnestness, privately, offer it to the Lord, that this is what I have done, all good and bad I offer unto thee. Please forgive my sins, my transgressions, and from now on I shall try to do better. You'll find a practical release deep inside you. Do it every day. It's part of our monastic vows. When we become monks, there's a whole ceremony. Part of that is offering all past karmas of all lives. It's a psychological exercise, but it really is very freeing. To sum it up, one sentence, the real you is ever free of karma, ever free of guilt, ever free of action on its results. The superficial, the surface you is caught in cause and effect. So it makes sense to do a lot of good karma. Be careful about bad karma, try to avoid it. And deep inside, offer, seek forgiveness and release from the effects of past bad karma. Yeah. Yes. Yes, please come and ask the question. Please tell us your name and where are you from?
Shuchi from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to ask the question. Can a sansari, a householder, as opposed to a sannyasi, a renunciate, attain moksha?
Yes. The answer straightforward is yes. Was that the whole of your question? All right. Good question, but yes, the answer is yes. The reason why this question comes is, please sit, is that when you hear the list of qualifications, which this book begins with all Vedantic texts, long list, you must have Viveka, Vairagya, the fourfold qualifications, looks tough. And immediately we feel, I'm not qualified. So maybe it's only for monks, it's only for yogis in forests and all. No, it's for everybody. You just need to seek. Remember, ultimately, it is what it's talking about is our common self, the impersonal consciousness behind all of us. The consciousness behind them, there, here, and here, everywhere, it's exactly the same. It's only in manifestation that we seem to find the difference. So it is our common spiritual heritage. It makes no difference really. A sannyasi, a monk, is a specialist who has given up everything else for the sole purpose of this. Now, a little qualification here. I always say that you don't have to be a monk externally, but internally you have to become monk-like. That it happens automatically. If you are a mathematician, for example, I have a friend, a monk who's a mathematician. So he's like a double monk because somebody who's given entirely to research or to art or some high pursuit becomes monk-like. You see, 99% of all the other things just simply drop away. You can't keep all the entanglements of the world and still do very high-class work in any field. So a kind of focus becomes automatic. Internally monk-like. The story which I like is, there was this, it's an old Indian story of a monkey which used to come down from the tree and steal the fruits which the farmer had kept to dry in the sun. The monkey would come and steal it when the farmer was not looking, and the farmer was furious. He would chase the monkey away. The monkey was too quick for him. So he thought, how do I teach this monkey a lesson? So he put the fruits in a narrow-necked jar. And the monkey was watching all of that. And when the farmer walked away glaring back at the monkey waited for a little while and crept back, and looking at the farmer, seeing his distance, put its hand into the jar, and was about to pick it out when the farmer came charging with a stick. Now, how does the monkey escape? You see, just let go. But it's a monkey, doesn't want to let go. And can't pull it out either because hand is trapped there. It should open its fist, you know. It should open its fist. And then it let go. The only way the monkey is saved is if the monkey mind becomes a monk mind. Let go. Otherwise, samsara is going to thrash you. So internally, that monk mind is necessary. What is a monk mind? Very quickly, a teacher put it very briefly. Minimize possessions, the stuff and junk I was talking about this morning. Minimize possessions in your life. Minimize obligations. About duties and obligations, Swami Vivekananda had a very nice formula. Neither seek nor avoid. There are people who are lonely if they have nothing to do. You are a great blessing if you have nothing to do. If people have forgotten you, if you have no more things to do in life, just take care of yourself a little bit. Very, very good. People get lonely and they get a pet, and then they get a little membership in a local committee and things like that. They start accumulating. Neither seek nor avoid. And then one more thing is reduce the relationships. Now, the way the monks handle it, I'll tell you, is that as monks we have only one relation with everybody, and that's a spiritual relationship. So husband, wife, mother, father, no. Even guru and disciple is a spiritual relationship. With my brother, monks and nuns, a spiritual relationship. With everybody else in the world, a spiritual relationship. It's the same consciousness in that name and form. That's it. It's very simple. Relationship has to be there, but multiplicity and complexity of relationship is what causes the problem. So this is what is meant by being a monk internally. The closer you can approximate to it, the more peaceful your life becomes. But use that surplus time and energy for self-inquiry, meditation, spiritual practices. One more point and I'll be done. Ramana Maharshi, you remember of the Who Am I fame? He was once asked, can I attain enlightenment? Is it for me? Same question. And his answer was, did you just say I? If you say I, you are qualified, because you can ask, who am I? Yes. Anybody else? There should be lots of questions. Please come.
I'm sorry I was a little late, and if you already answered this, don't repeat yourself. But in the classic example of the snake and the rope, the snake is, there really is a snake. You mistake the rope for the snake because there really is a snake. And you never mistake the rope for the ocean or the sun. You mistake the rope. So how, if Brahman is nameless and formless and qualityless, do we mistake this formful, qualityful world for reality?
Right. So this is a really profound question. If you philosophically, it's the question of how does the one become the many? It's not so difficult to accept that there is one impersonal being consciousness, but how does it become this enormous plurality? Yeah. A religion will give the answer by, oh, that reality is God and God has created all this. All right, that's an answer. Science will say Big Bang and add to that evolution, which accounts for this enormous variety. That's an explanation. But what does Vedanta say? Where one featureless consciousness being now appears as all this. So what is the answer? First of all, the snake and rope example. Let me clarify that a little bit. The dualistic Vedantins, the dualistic school, use this objection. They say, the way they put it is, there is really a snake. And that's why you mistake, where there is no snake, the rope, you think it's a snake. So if that's the example you're using, why not say there is really a world and you are seeing it by mistake? And then why say even a mistake? You're really seeing a world, so there is a real world. It's a dualistic universe. Why talk about non-dualism at all? You see where it goes. If there is really a snake, what you're saying basically, there's really a world out there, apart from consciousness. The Vedantin wants to say this. To have an error, to make a mistake, it's not necessary that there should really be a snake. What is necessary is you must have a previous experience of a snake. Note that previous experience of a snake also need not be a real snake. Children may see a snake movie. Most people in Manhattan, children haven't really seen a snake. But they may still think that there's a snake somewhere because they've seen a movie or a picture of a snake or a dinosaur, or people see ghosts without ever really having seen a ghost. So all you need is the samskara in your mind, and that is repeated. That is there. So the example is not vitiated by the fact that there might be a real snake outside. But it still remains, the question remains, how does the featureless Brahman bring out this glorious world? Problematic, but glorious world also, colorful world. The answer given is Maya, which is no answer at all. Maya is the power of projection, which Brahman projects multiple names and forms. Notice one thing. All the variety of waves and bubbles and foam in the ocean, they are nothing other than water. The names are different. Wave and surf and foam and bubbles. The shapes are different. Sizes are different. Activity is different. But the substance there is just water. All of that. And it can do all that. In the same way, the example is that one existence consciousness place, because it is of the nature of consciousness, it can express itself in so many varieties. That power of expression in multiplicity is Maya. it does not make a difference to non-dual Vedanta, because non-dual Vedanta is, so to say, is interested only in the water itself. As long as water remains water, the Vedantin is perfectly happy, no matter what the shape, the activity, or the size. Similarly, as long as it is Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss, man, woman, world, quasars, quarks, protons, whales and sharks and animals, and all of this is perfectly all right. Is it existence? Does it exist? Is it isness? Yes, of course it's isness, otherwise it would not exist. Is it a feature of, is it appearing in consciousness? Yes, it is. Fine. Note how the dreamer's mind, when we fall asleep and dream, it projects a glorious technicolor, industrial grade reality in our dream. If you try to imagine, you can't imagine the dream with such vividness as all of us, we dream so much, so vividly. So the mind has that capacity. How much more so that background consciousness from which even the mind has emerged. One answer I liked was when Swami, non-dualist, he said, look at it this way. One way of looking at it is this. Consciousness, Brahman is of the nature of consciousness. The nature of consciousness is to know, is to experience. And it's like, he says, a little child goes out and looks into the sky. The nature of this eyes is to see. But the sky itself cannot be seen. It's not a surface which can be seen. So what does the child see? What do we all see when we look up? It looks like a blue bowl, an inverted surface. Because the nature of the eye is to see, so it sees, but the sky is nature of this of space is not to be seen. It's not a surface which can be seen. So it appears as a surface. Similarly, what happens is, because Brahman's nature is to experience, consciousness nature is to experience, and Brahman itself, the only thing that exists, cannot be an object of experience. So when it tries to objectify the pure subject, we end up seeing it as the pure existence, immortal existence is seen as being born and dying. The unchanging existence is seen as changing. What is consciousness is now experienced as an object of consciousness. And what is pure bliss, completeness, is now experienced as a medley of suffering and enjoyment, sukha dukkha. That is samsara. It's a rather fancy way of saying, when Brahman tries to experience itself, this is the result. Alan Watts' story, you see? God trying to know himself, or God trying to play with God. One more point. One of our Swamis, the early Swamis who came to the United States, I think it was Swami Trigunatitananda in San Francisco, he gave a really nice answer to this question. He said, on this side of enlightenment, we have the question and no real answer. On that side of enlightenment, they have the answer, no question. Really interesting, because note that the people we consider to be enlightened, this question did not bug them. How does that one infinite appear as the finite universe? It's a big question for us. But from their point of view, it doesn't seem to be a real question. Have they found a solution? I would rather say the question has been dissolved. Yeah. Not solved, but dissolved. Okay. Yes. Okay.
Pranam Swamiji.
Tell us your name and where are you from?
Deepa, and I'm here with my husband Krishna, and we are from Maryland. So Swamiji, the question I have is, here, beautiful Sivananda Ashram, listening to Swamiji, intellectually I feel I understand what Swamiji is saying, but how to practically, first of all, when I walk off from here, when we leave from here, I feel like the spiritual energy level that's so high here will starting to go down. And on top of that, really want to practically establish myself more and more progress instead of sliding back again when we go away from here. How do we do that? What are some practical tips?
All right. It's a good question. Most people have this question. I'll give you a direct answer from the Advaitic point of view, and then what you might consider to be a more practical answer. The direct answer from the Advaitic point of view is that there is no sliding back at all. You are what you are all the time. Even the person who thinks I'm completely hopeless and I'm a backslider and I'm spiritually making no progress is the perfect existence consciousness bliss right there and then. There is no possibility of improving what you are. Then you cannot add to it. It's infinite. There's no possibility of spoiling it either. It's always pure, perfect. It is that. And so that's hopeful, Swamiji, but it doesn't really. All right, here's a practical thing. The question was, how do I make it practical in daily life, these teachings? Answer is, don't try that. It's like, don't try it right now. It's like, I give the example in Manhattan, it's very difficult to drive. Your friend gives you a Ferrari. And if the first thing that you do, you don't have a driver's license, you've never driven a car, the first thing you do, let me take it out for a spin. You know what's going to happen? You're going to crash. It's not going to work. This path, what you need to do is, Vivekananda put it very nicely. He said, don't just do, think. It's just the opposite. We now keep saying, don't just think, do something. It's here just the opposite. Don't just do something, think. First, the inner clarification. Vivekananda put it this way. He said, fill the mind with noble and high thoughts. When the mind is elevated, saturated with these noble thoughts, action will come of itself. If you try to do it outside in, then it will be an artificial struggle. I don't really feel that, but I'm trying to act like that. It's a good practice, but still a struggle. So, as far as Advaita is concerned, keep it at the level of inquiry. Keep on inquiring. When the shift happens, I'm a body with consciousness, shift to I am consciousness experiencing a body-mind, you will see everything will fall in line. Spiritual practice and living life will become much easier. So keep this at the level of inquiry, study daily. There are a wide range of texts and teachings available. Study, think about it, meditate upon it. And together with it, the whole range of other spiritual practices. Prayer and meditation and yoga and service. Keep that going because that prepares the ground. Those fourfold qualification, it always comes back to that. A teacher told me once, if you have that, if the mind is ready, when you come to these teachings, the result will be, yes, it is so. Enlightenment comes straight away. Without adequate preparation, when we come to these teachings, the result will be, it's a nice philosophy, but it really doesn't help me in my day-to-day life. It is the greatest help in your day-to-day life. Yes, come. Remember, I didn't ask you to stop doing this. Don't misunderstand me. Keep doing this. Hold on to it. This is central. In fact, from an Advaita point of view, all the spiritual practices that we do ultimately culminates here. Yes, please tell us your name and where you're from.
Hari Om Swamiji. I'm Leela Mai, from here in the ashram, I guess. My question is a little technical. You discussed today in the morning two different views within Advaita Vedanta. One that takes Shravanam as the source of enlightenment, yes, and the other that takes Nididhyasanam as the source of enlightenment.
Yes.
So I think I've only encountered in studying the first view, and I was wondering if you could elaborate on this, and also maybe which text it's coming from, which acharyas for which schools.
Right. Thank you. What is important in enlightenment? Three things are there in practice. One, you study, hear these truths, Shravanam. Then you question, argue, try to get clarification, Mananam, dwell on it. And then the third one is Nididhyasanam. After getting clarification, you center yourself in it. Now, what exactly is enlightenment in Advaita Vedanta? The technical term for that is Brahmakara Vritti, a modification of the mind. We all know the term Chitta Vritti. So, a modification of the mind about Brahman, about our real self. When that clarity comes, that is Brahmakara Vritti. So the question is, what produces Brahmakara Vritti? Is it the study and the listening that produces that enlightenment, that moment, that intuitive grasp, and that instant, that flash? Does it pursue that? Or does it require constant meditation on what you have studied and reasoned about? Nididhyasana. So these are two views. The first view, which you have come across, that's the standard view in the monastic communities, our view. So that comes from a sub-school of Vedanta called the Padmapada Acharya, the direct disciple of Shankaracharya. It is called the Vivarana view, Vivarana Matam. So there's a long textual commentarial tradition. The Upanishads, the Gita, the Brahma Sutra, they were commented upon by Shankaracharya, Adi Shankaracharya. You can see his picture there. So he's the source of our present monastic traditions. Most of you, I would think that you belong to the Saraswati order because Vishnu Devanandaji and Shivananda Saraswati. That's one of the 10 orders founded by Shankaracharya. I personally belong to the Puri order because our teachers, going back to Vivekananda and Ramakrishna, were disciples of Totapuri. So they come from the Puri. But they're all like the allied monastic orders, and they're all non-dualistic. And so they follow the tradition of Padmapada, who was maybe the closest disciple of Shankaracharya. Padmapada's writings have had so Padmapada wrote sub-commentaries on Shankaracharya's writings. And then their disciples wrote sub-commentaries on Padmapada's writings. So that become a textual tradition called the Vivarana school. There's a reason why it's called the Vivarana school. But it's their view, Shravanat eva jnanam. From listening comes knowledge. From hearing comes knowledge. I'll give you a demonstration of that, and let's see if we do get enlightened. The technique. There is a whole school of thought, it's called Shabda Aparoksha. Directly from the teaching, intuitive realization. Aparoksha Anubhuti. This Aparoksha Anubhuti, it arises within us. Let's see if it can be done. Directly from the pointing out. But there was another great teacher, a householder scholar called Vachaspati Mishra, who commented independently on Shankaracharya's Brahma Sutra Bhashya. He wrote a text called the Bhamati. Now the Bhamati has also its own tradition. It's more popular among householder non-dualists. And he stresses the importance of meditation, nididhyasana. And that also has a background. There's something called prasankhana. So that comes from that tradition. Practically doesn't make much of a difference. You end up doing all three. Because even in our tradition, in the Vivarana tradition, does Padmapada say reasoning is not necessary? Does he say meditation is not necessary? No, those are necessary. Realization comes from listening, but it is blocked. If you say realization comes from listening, you can immediately say, Swami, you have listened. Why am I not enlightened? So the ready answer is it's blocked. Blocked by two things. One is the asambhavana, impossibility obstacle. I talked about it yesterday. It seems impossible. What you are saying seems too crazy to be true. Jim Holt, in his book, Why Does the World Exist? He's written this wonderful book. He's interviewed scientists, journalists, mathematicians, philosophers, theologians. Why does the universe exist? At the very end, I was thinking, will he bring up Advaita? Most people don't know, so maybe he doesn't know. But at the very end, he does bring it up. Robert Nozick, who was one of the leading philosophers of mind in the world, he mentioned it to Jim Holt that there is a theory which seems to answer all of these objections, all questions. And that is the ancient Hindu idea, the philosophy of non-dualism, Advaita. And then Jim Holt explains all this in one paragraph, and then he dismisses it by saying, it's too crazy, we can't go down that road. It's too much to believe. But there's no logical refutation of that. It's just too much to believe. That is called, that's the obstacle. Impossibility obstacle. And that is removed by mananam, reasoning. What is your problem with it? It's just too much is not a logical question. Tell me what is your problem with it? And there are answers. Believe me, there are very good answers to whatever question we can generate. For more than 1,000, 1,500 years, these debates have been going on. The second obstacle is viparita bhavana, our contrary tendencies. Even after understanding everything, we tend to live and behave the way we were earlier. So that has to be changed. Meditation is useful there. So this is the framework. should we have 2 or 3 minutes? Can we take 2 or 3 minutes? I'll give a demonstration of that Aparoksha, Shabda Aparoksha Vada. It's a story. That's why I wanted to share it with you. It's a well-known Indian story. It is used to teach the method of the 5 sheets. Today in the morning we did that. We used the Drigdrishya Viveka method. Seen, the world is seen, the eyes are the seer, eyes are seen, the mind is the seer, mind is seen, and consciousness is the seer, like that way. Another way you find in the Taittiriya Upanishad is this. They look at the human personality and see 5 layers, subtler and subtler, inner and inner. I will not go into the depth of the teaching, but it's like this. So first start with the most obvious thing about yourself, the physical body. And it's called the food sheath. Here is the food sheath, Annamaya Kosha. Inside this, subtler than this, is the pranic body, breathing. Our heartbeat, the blood, and the assimilation of food, and all the things going on. The functions of life, the vital forces surging in this body. That is called prana, the pranic body. Subtler and inside. Subtler and inside to that is the mind, the mental body, Manomaya Kosha. Thoughts, the buzzing, the variety of feelings, emotions, thoughts, memories buzzing around. Subtler than that is what is called the sheath of the intellect. Understanding, clarity. It's another function of the mind itself, but it's given a separate status. The Vijnanamaya Kosha, the intellect, which we are trying to use right now to understand this. That's the intellect. If you push beyond that, push means in your own inner experience, you will hit a blank wall. That is called the Anandamaya Kosha for certain reasons, the sheath of bliss, of rest. An experience like deep sleep, for example, blank. Now, the Upanishad says the self is within these 5 sheaths, the Atman, the pure consciousness. As you go deeper and deeper, you will find it. But the way the Upanishad teaches is this. Normally the way Vedantic text says that, oh, there are the 5 sheets and innermost is the Atman. The food sheet, vital sheet, mental sheet, inner and inner, intellect sheet, the bliss sheet, and beyond that the Atman. But the original text, the Taittiriya Upanishad, goes to the innermost, the blankness, the Anandamaya, and stops there. Does not say that the Atman is there. Just stops. And we say that, so where is the Atman? Was it like a trick? You, like in Russian nesting dolls, you keep pulling out smaller and smaller and then nothing else is there? Is it not there? Is the Atman not there? And the answer is, if you think that the Atman is not there, you are not there, but you definitely are there. See, what is done is, what I think of myself as the 5 sheets, it is shown to me I am not these 5 sheets. Why am I not these 5 sheets? Remember the pointers, seer and seen, and conscious and non-conscious, changing and unchanging. Because of those reasons, I am not the 5 sheets. I am not what I thought I was. Then you are simply left with the question, then what are you? You clearly do exist. And yet what you thought yourself to be, these 5, you are not. Then what are you? Here the story is there. I'll just leave you with the story. The 10 friends, they cross the river. And after crossing the river, they suddenly think, did we all cross or did somebody drown? Let's count. And one of them counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh my God, that can't be right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, the 10th person is drowned. Another one says, no, let me count, let me count. And he counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And they all sit down and start crying. The 10th person is drowned. The 10th person is drowned. Our friend has drowned. And then the wise man walks past and says, why are you crying, my friends? Oh, our friend has drowned. The 10th person. How do you know? We counted. We were 10. Now we have crossed the river. There are only 9 of us. How do you know there are 9? We counted. And that person must have counted and seen there were 10 of them. So he said, don't worry. The guru comes, the teachings come and say, don't worry. There is a way out. There is, the 10th person is still there. Your friend is there. Where? I'll show you. Calm down. This is the phase where you start spiritual practices and meditation and reading, and this is the calming down phase. It's there. whatever you call it, God, pure consciousness, what. So it's there. I'll show you. Show me. One of you come here and count the others. Stand in a queue and you count them. I counted. Humor me, count again. So he's counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this man comes and takes his hand and turns it around. Thou art the 10th. In Sanskrit, Dashamastvamasi. 10. This man goes, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Oh my God, I found the 10th person. And the others say, let me try. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And they are all so happy. We are doing exactly the same thing. It's when you're enlightened, you will see how profound a story this is. How to use this story? It'll just take a minute or 2 minutes, if you want to try it. You sit and relax. We will go deeper and deeper, the 5 layers of our being. And at the last layer, just remember this. Look at my hand. That I cannot do. I'll take you up to the deepest layer. But after that, that twist, I cannot do for you. From there, you have to do it yourself, intuitively. Be aware of the body, touching the floor beneath you, the chair, the asana. This is the food sheath, the physical body. Inner and subtler, breathe in and breathe out. Feel that. The movement of the lungs and the belly and the diaphragm, the air whooshing in and out. This is the pranamaya, the action of prana, the subtler, the pranic body. Go yet deeper and subtler. The thoughts, sensations, memories bubbling up and down. That is the mind sheath, manomaya. Go yet deeper, direct your attention to this intellect, the ego and the intellect, which is saying, I am doing a Vedantic practice now. I am trying to understand. I am looking. This one, that's also a sheath, a covering. It's the sheath of the intellect, Vijnanamaya. Go deeper, subtler, blank. Nothing. Just blank. To whom is that blankness appearing? Turn inwards, so to say, from that blankness. To what is that blankness, the intellect, the mind, the breath, the body, the universe appearing? That thou art. Stay. Gently open your eyes. We'll discuss more about it this evening. More meditation techniques are there. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Peace Peace Peace.